So if it isn't obvious already, my eyesight isn't the greatest. There are these contraptions called glasses that are kind of a good giveaway of, they kind of communicate to everybody that you're as blind as a bat. And as I look at you right now without my glasses, like I just see a bunch of white blobs with shirts that are multicolored. Like I can't even see your eyes right now. Like it's that bad. And I got to tell you about this story. One day I was in ninth grade, and for some reason in ninth grade, every school year, they had you do an eye exam. And for many of you, you love, I know all the people in the room that have corrective lenses, you're probably reading this, wondering if you can even pass the eye test even right now as I speak. And so they do the eye doctor thing, right? Where they tell you, all right, cover your left eye. All right, now read the bottom line, okay? And you know it's bad, and everybody with corrective lenses can resonate with me. You know it's bad when you're told to read the letters on the bottom line and you say, what letters? Because you cannot read the letters for the life of you, right? And so so what do? When you can't read something, what do? You squint, right? You squint because you're hoping that will help you, and it does a little bit, but not enough to be able to answer the pop quiz that's in front of you. And so you squint, but you really can't make out anything that's there. So you throw Hail Mary on the letters that it might be, and of course you get it wrong, and the eye doctor knows that. So it says, all right, go up to the next line. This continued to happen over and over until I got to the top line. And they said, Adam, would you list off these two letters? And listen, I still had to squint to be able to get to these two letters. And so the eye doctor lady, she ends up writing something down on a piece of paper. She gives it to me. She says, Adam, you need glasses. And I said, no, I'm okay. I don't need glasses. I'm all set. And then the bombshell hit. Adam, no glasses, no driver's license. Oh, that is brutal. I gotta tell you a confession though. My vision had already been really bad for 2 years. I knew it. I knew I needed glasses, but I did nothing about it. Listen, like I would be in school as a 7th grader and I couldn't read the board, okay? So if we had a pop quiz where things were written on the board, I got an F on the table because I couldn't read what was on the board to be able to answer the question, right? So my grades started to slip. I was a baseball player growing up. My batting average plummeted. You know why? Because I couldn't see the ball. And you're thinking to yourself, Adam, why didn't you just get glasses? Like, why are you so dumb? Just get the glasses. I need you to remember middle school self. You remember the middle school days? Right? You remember those days where everything was centered around your reputation and you did nothing to hamper your reputation. And right or wrong, I remember as a kid, because at least back when I was a teenager, they didn't have sweet frames like they do now. They had like the wire frames that just looked really bad. And so I remember thinking glasses equals dorky. So don't wear glasses. And so I would fake it till I made it, continuing for those 2 years, living life totally blind, not being able to see anything, not failing my classes, but definitely taking a dip in my classes, not doing well in sports, and it was awful. It was awful. And then I finally got that heart-to-heart moment with this eye doctor, and the crazy thing happened. I went to an eye doctor's appointment, I got new glasses, and I put them on for the first time, and it was spectacular. Like I could see, listen, I remember being at the house, and I looked outside, and I would see blades of grass, and I'm thinking to myself, I thought it was just a big green blob. Like I thought that was it. And you can see all the details of life. So there's this part of me that's thinking to myself, man, this is so awesome that I could be able to see all these different things. And there's this other part of me that is so livid with myself. You know why? Because I spent 2 years I could have had visual clarity like I do now, and I just wasted it. Adam, how stupid were you? Like you wasted all this opportunity. Like why didn't you just do it? And it all came down to that I was so stubborn and so independent. And I guess I was blind in more ways than one. Listen, I think all of us like to be independent, don't we? Like we like the perception that we've got life all figured out. That I didn't need anybody, like I'm able to just go through life and I'm good. I don't need to ask for help, I'm all set. And especially when life gets tough, we tend to kind of hunker down. Because, let me ask you, why wouldn't you ask for help from somebody? Because it makes you feel what? It makes you feel weak. Makes you feel vulnerable, right? To ask, it's okay if other people ask help from me, but I'm not gonna ask help from other people because I don't want to be perceived that way. And so I don't. And I tough it out like I'm okay. But as we've been going along in this Playing God series, we've been walking through God's incommunicable attributes. We're gonna be going through 3 more incommunicable attributes today. We're gonna go through them pretty quick. But what I want us to do is to really reflect on this idea of God's independence and our dependence. It's this attribute number 5 that we're going to be going through today that I think is really going to hit this home. That we're going to be talking a lot about what we call God's aseity. This is one of those weird words that you never use. God's aseity. What does that even mean? When we say God's aseity, in Latin, the phrase ase means from oneself. And in other words, it basically means that you are self-existent or self-sufficient. So in God's case, what it means is that God depends on no one, and he depends on nothing. God is independent. He is all set with life. And so I just want us to think about this concept for a moment, because a lot of us, we think we're independent. Can I ask you a question? Are you really independent? Are you really? You know what? Let's play a game. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff on the board, and I'm going to ask you the question, can you go without this thing? Okay? Because if you need that thing, you are dependent on it. If you can go without it, you are independent. So let's play this around, shall we? Can you go without breathing? You ever as a kid, like try and hold your breath and try and hold it for as long as possible? Like a double dog dare kind of thing? Right? You maybe can hold your breath, I don't know, maybe a minute, maybe more. But what happens after a minute or so? You start to lose consciousness, right? You'll pass out, right? You need oxygen in your lungs, and you need to be able to breathe every few seconds, because if you don't, it's not going to go well for you, right? Let's keep going. Can you go without food? You need a certain amount of calories every day just to keep the amount of energy that you have. So, yeah, I think you still need food. Water, I always tell my wife that I don't need water. I'm all set. I'll drink something else, right? But we need water, don't we? Right? If you don't drink water, what happens after a few days if you don't drink water? On the light side, you'll become dehydrated. On the dark side, it might lead to severe consequences health-wise for you, right? Keep going, right? Shelter, clothing. Imagine if you didn't have a roof over your head or clothes to be able to get around in this weather, right? How would you handle like single-digit temperatures without these things, right? You are dependent on staying warm. You are grateful for the heat that is coming out of your homes. This is a big one. Listen, when you're young, you don't really appreciate this thing, but as you grow older, you love this thing. This concept of sleep. And what is crazy to me is that we spend a quarter, if not a third of our lives, where? In bed. Why? Because we all need rest. we all need to sleep. We all are unconscious for a third to a quarter of our lives. We like to think to ourselves, man, if I just work out or if I just eat the right stuff, that I'll stay healthy or if I'll have physical strength. But I think as you grow older, you start to realize, man, I'm not promised these things either. Because over time, it just starts to go slowly down. You keep going to protection, right? Where whether it's from protection from criminals all the way to natural disasters, we need sovereign protection that we can't just defend ourselves from. We need guidance and wisdom and direction in the ways that we go throughout life. Man, for our job and finances, we need a job and we are dependent on a job that helps provide the finances that is able to help provide for a lot of these things. If you want to take it spiritually, we need forgiveness from our sins. We need salvation that comes from outside of us. What I want you to see is clear. We need God. We need God. And every single hour, minute, day, all of it, we need him. And what is so funny is that we deceive ourselves into thinking that we were able to earn these things all by ourselves. That I was able to do this. Flip with me, 2 Chronicles chapter 26. 2 Chronicles chapter 26. If you need help finding it, go to your table of contents. And it's, 12th, 13th, 14th book down. You'll see it 1 Chronicles and a 2 Chronicles. Go to 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 26. There's this guy named Uzziah. We don't talk about this passage a whole bunch. Uzziah is part of the royal family of Israel. So you can imagine he's a great prince, okay? And Uzziah gets the call one day that he is going to be the next king, all right? Next king. Now, what I want you to see if you're there, 2 Chronicles 26, what I want you to notice is when he gets that call. When does he get that call? Skip to verse 3. When does he get the call? Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign. That's when he got the call. Okay, let's pause for a moment. Let's play a scenario. Imagine that, go back in time to when you were 16 years old. Okay, some of you might be there now, but imagine that you're 16 years old. And I were to bring you to Washington, D.C., and I was to let you know that today you are going to be sworn into office as the next president of the United States of America, and you're going to be the president. Your term is going to be for the rest of your life. Okay, how are you feeling right now, President? Dear God, no. Right? Please, no. Listen, do you remember how much wisdom you had at 16 years old? Very little, right? So listen, I can't do this. There's no way I could ever do this. I'm not ready for this thing. I'm too young. Listen, I think I'd feel that way right now at age 30, let alone age 16, let alone whatever age you are. We wouldn't feel ready. But I would tell you, just as Uzziah was told, you're the guy. There is no backup plan. You are it. And so Uzziah gets thrust in. You can imagine just feeling the weight of responsibility for people. The amount of people that are looking to you for these massive decisions that will affect every single part of their life is dependent on you. And that weight of responsibility has to be crushing. And then there's this guy named Zechariah. In the days of Zechariah, we're not talking about the guy that wrote the book of Zechariah, the prophet, but I think a lot of people would say that this guy was a prophet, also named Zechariah. And Zechariah comes to him and he says, listen, if you want to thrive, if you want to be successful in what you're doing as king, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Fear God, trust in him, follow his ways. This book that I'm giving you, the Bible, follow it. Follow it to the letter. And if you do, things will go well for you. And listen, Uzziah is at this point, when you are so young and you are so dependent on everybody else around you, he's so dependent on Zechariah himself because he doesn't have any wisdom or knowledge base or experience to go off of. So he's just like, okay, I'll follow you, I'll trust you. And this seems like the worst strategy on the planet. Like, how many of you would hire a 16-year-old to be the president of the United States? Like, you would think that is a stupid plan. And yet, what is insane about this is that this is what you end up seeing, that, and you can skim down from verses 6 to like 15 of this chapter for proof. Notice verse 5, it says, as long as Uzziah sought the Lord, what happened? God made him prosper. He made him prosper. All for following this book and fearing God, which makes no sense. Listen, like you skip down and you start to see he's waging war with their great enemy, the Philistines, and what happens? He wins the battle. Like he beats them. 16 years old. And you keep going, he ends up not only gaining victory in these battles, but he ends up gaining leadership and influence and wealth. He's gathering and assuming all these things, and things are going great for him. All because he is following the Lord every step of the way. But I want you to notice what happens to him. This is key. Skip to verse 16. Because what ends up happening is that as Uzziah grows older, he gets used to this success in life. He's getting used to winning all these battles that he's facing against these enemies, that he's gathering all this wealth that he's accumulated, that it all started with him, all this influence. And people are saying, oh, King Uzziah, you are the greatest king that we've ever had. You are awesome. There is none like you. And you know what that happens to him? What that starts doing to him? He starts to think, yeah, you're right. You're right. You know what? Those victories, that was me. I did that. The wealth and the power and all that stuff, that was me. You're right. And that accolades and the wealth and the power and the success starts to slowly get to his head. And what happens in verse 16? As he starts to feel that he is strong, what happens? He grows proud to his own destruction. And you see prideful Uzziah come one day into a church service, into the temple. And one of the things with the temple is that there were certain responsibilities that the priests had that nobody else could do. And one of those responsibilities was burning incense. But Uzziah comes in one day, he sees the priests that are supposed to be burning incense, and he says, you know what? I want to do it today. I'm going to do it today. I don't need the priests to worship. I can do it myself. And the priests are looking at him, they're like, don't you dare. Listen, if you do this, this will be major consequences for you. But Uzziah, at this point, he doesn't care. Because he grew from this 16-year-old dependent on everybody kid. And over time, he feels that he can do everything by himself. And what happens? You start to notice that he ends up burning the incense, and then immediately the Lord struck him with leprosy that day until his death. He has this flesh-eating skin disease that not only stayed with him for the rest of his life, but notice what also happens, that as being a leper, he would have to say, I'm unclean, I can't even come into the house of worship anymore. And so not only would he have to live alone for the rest of his life, but he was excluded from the house of God. Did you see the arc of what happened to Uzziah? He started off so humble. He started off so dependent. He trusted on God and feared him for his life. But over time, as success starts to come along, it starts to breed contempt. And that contempt ends up leading to the pride that was residing within his heart, so much so that he thought that he could play God himself. And what happens? It leads to his own demise. You ever heard the phrase, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. You hear that phrase? Has your parent ever tell you that? Listen, you can do this the easy way, or you're going to do this the hard way. And by hard way, we're going to receive punishment, and you're going to still do the thing that I just told you to do. And listen, we have this temptation ourselves where when it comes to I want to be independent. I want to be able to fix my own problems. When things happen and circumstances happen, I want to be able to I research it, I figure it out. I don't need God in the process. I need to figure it out myself. We become the independent ones. And if there's anything that God helps us realize is that, listen, you can be dependent. You can trust in God. You can allow him to move and work. Or you can do this the hard way. And you know what? He's going to bring you back to himself anyway. And what a tall tale and a warning for each and every one of us. That we don't become the Uzziahs who try and do everything on our own accord, that we truly recognize the kind of beings that we are dependent on everything. It's so easy in our pride to think that we're able to amass all these certain things. And you know, when we look at this list once again, how foolish it is to think that we could even earn a dime of any of this stuff. There's not a single thing on this list that we can say, yes, I did that. Ultimately, it's God that's provided every single ounce of your existence is dependent on him. And here's God, right? Turn with me, Psalm 50. Psalm 50. Here's God. He is in a totally different world. Just for context, in Psalm 50, the psalmist is talking about how God is mad about how people are living. What they would do is they would provide this like nice bull or ram or sacrifice to God and say, here you go, we're so grateful for you. And then they would do all this shady stuff behind the scenes. So they didn't really have heart change. They weren't really confessing or repenting sin, right? They were just giving a bunch of their nice stuff just so God would appease them. And God really wants them to reevaluate their heart. But for this aspect, I want you to notice that, listen, we need all this stuff. We need help with all of this stuff. And I want you to notice, does God need help with all this stuff? Psalm 50, skip down to verse 10. This is what he says. He says, listen, for you're giving me all these bulls and rams and sacrifices, all these things. Listen to me. For every beast of the forest, listen, it's mine. All the cows that are on 1,000 hills, mine. All the birds of the hills, mine. All that moves in the field, mine. Right? And let me make this clear for you. If you feel like I'm needy or dependent on you, like you need to be the savior for me, God, like as God, that you need to be God's savior, let me remind you, this is God speaking. Listen, if I were hungry, if I truly needed food, which I don't, but if I ever did, listen, I don't need to tell you. I don't need you. I got all this stuff, all the world, its fullness thereof. It is mine. Listen, God owns everything. He doesn't need you. But he wants you. I want that to be very clear. He doesn't need you. He didn't have to create you, but he wanted to because he loves you. The world is mine and all thereof. And it brings about this next attribute that we need to talk about. This attribute, like how can God say that all this stuff is his? How is he able to not need anything? And it goes to this next attribute, that God is what we call transcendent. that God is transcendent. With this word transcendent, again, going back to the Latin again, I don't even know anything about Latin, but Latin, if you were to break it down, means to climb over, to go beyond. Basically, that God is infinitely above and infinitely greater than anything in human existence. So Pastor Jerry, last week, he talked about God's omnipotence, his all-powerfulness. He was talking about how when you look at the galaxies in the universe, how he is greater than all the trillions of galaxies that are out there. That he is so much greater and bigger. And what we need to get through our heads is that we cannot squeeze God into our little box. We cannot contain God. As soon as you contain God, what does that make God? Not God. God is beyond your comprehension, beyond your power, beyond your strength, beyond anything that you can ever imagine. He is beyond this universe. And you want to know how long he has been beyond these things and above these things? How long has he been that way? It's this next attribute, that God is eternal. That God is not, he's not defined by time. That he has no beginning, he has no end. That he is the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the one who was and is and yet to come. That is him. Listen, think about yourself. You have a birth date. You have a birthday every year that comes around. It reminds you of the date that you were born. And one day you will have an end date. You have a beginning, you have an end. And here's God. He has never had a birthday. Isn't that incredible? Never had a birthday. He has just always been. He always that is mind-blowing. Right? So let's piece this all together. If God is transcendent, that he is above all things, he is more powerful than anything, that he knows all things, that he is present for all things, he is beyond all the universe that we could ever imagine, plus he is beyond all time, from beginning, all the way from the beginning to the end. If he's able to be both of these things, then yes, God doesn't need you. God doesn't need you. But boy, do we need him. And it's because that he is transcendent, it is because that he is eternal, that we can trust in him as dependent people to be able to say, you know what? I can't do everything on my own. I can't be able to manufacture all that, even the tiniest things on the board that we had earlier, but God can. And I can trust in him every single day. Because everything in this world is his. That I am his. And I can trust my own life to him. I want you to flip to Psalm 90. This is the last verse we'll flip to. Psalm 90. And I just want to continue to just unpack this idea of, especially in terms of God's time, what God's time looks like versus what your time looks like. Psalm 90. The psalmist starts off with God's time. What does time look like for God? It says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in how long? In all generations. We have how much of a generation or two or whatever it might be that we are able to live. He has been part of all generations, every second that there has been on this world. He was there before the mountains were ever brought forth. Can you imagine that? Like every mountain that was ever created, he was there before that. That even when he had formed the earth and the world from everlasting to everlasting, he is God through it all. Keep going. And this is how God views time. For listen, for 1,000 years in your sight are but as a yesterday when it is past. So when God sees time, for 1,000 years is a blip on his radar. Now let's think about you and me. What's our time frame? Skip down to verse 10. The years of your life are 70, reason of strength, maybe 80. Some of you are in that age bracket and you're thinking, uh-oh. But I want you to notice something. Why does he bring that up? Why does he contrast between God is everlasting throughout time, that he has no beginning and no end, and why does he contrast compared to your teeny tiny blip on the radar? The answer is in verse 12. The psalmist tells you and me, because I have this much time on this earth and this planet, God, would you teach me to number my days? Would you teach me to number my seconds and minutes that we may get a heart of wisdom? God has all the time in the world to be able to do what he wants whenever he wants. But you and I don't. You and I are on a shot clock. And the kicker is you don't know how many seconds you have. And so my prayer for you this morning is that you have a heart of wisdom to hear these words and to apply these words. And so what I want to do, I'm going to provide for you 5 things that I think if you truly heed these words, that you will truly have a heart of what the proverbial wise psalm says. 5 things that I want to share with you. All based off of these attributes. First, I think, especially with God's aseity, that his independent nature, I think it should lead us to thank God for all that we are dependent on him for, including the little seemingly insignificant things. You know, I've been doing over this past several months, I've been doing this like blessings journal. I've mentioned this to you, but basically what I'll do every day is that I have an app on my phone and I just record for 2 minutes, just, God, how have you blessed me today? That's all I do. And what I have found is that the person that started that over these past few months compared to the person that wasn't doing it beforehand is incredibly more grateful for the littlest of things that I never would have been before. And some of us are here today, we take everything for granted. Like I mentioned things like food and water and clothing, and we just go to our drawer, like our pantry, and just grab food out of the counter. We grab clothes out of our closets. We don't even think about it. And boy, I just think that when we truly have a time to be able to just reflect and think, God, you have provided so much for me. More than I ever deserved, more than I ever thought that I would ever need. And so maybe some of you today, not just being thankful for the big things, but man, being thankful for the things that no one else is thanking God for. And over time, you will find yourself to be a more and more to be this grateful person. And when bad things happen, you are just found as that grateful person. And you're not seen as the angry, bitter person because of the things that were taken away from you. Listen, we always take things for granted, and we're never appreciative until those things are taken away from us. So let's be grateful now for the things that we do have, instead of being bitter for the things that are removed from us. Not only do I think we should thank God, I think we should spend more time in dependent prayer. I remember Martin Luther, he said this one time. He's 16th century great theologian. And he said this, he said, I have so much work to do today that I need to spend 3 hours in prayer beforehand to get all that I need to get done. You catch that? See, what you and I would normally do is if we had a bunch of stuff to get done, we would skip our Bible reading time, we would skip the prayer time, and we would go straight into doing what we need to do, because then we'll feel better. And you know what I found when I do that? I feel more anxious, more stressed, and I end up in these circles of getting nothing done throughout the day. And somehow there is this just way that God works it, where when we say, you know what, God, I am in desperate need of your help today. God has this capacity, even though it seems so illogical to come to him in prayer for as long, I'm not saying 3 hours, but for a chunk of time. It's crazy to find that at the end of the day, you will find that you're able to get the stuff that you need to get done that day. I'm not saying that's a lock and seal, but what I am saying is that for many of us, we have become so dependent upon ourselves, that we've become so independent in trying to fix problems and make solutions out of things that we never really go to God for anything. And I think we just need to realize if the God of the universe is transcendent, and if the God of the universe is eternal, and he doesn't need anything from you, but we need everything from him, shouldn't it lead us to be people more dependent on prayer? Because we can do nothing without him. This third one, for all the Mainers in the room, listen up, this is for you. I think we need to be okay with asking for help from others. Listen, when I moved here 6 years ago, I just noticed there's this something culturally woven within this society of just being really independent and stubborn, right? Like you don't ask for help if you would ever want to. Like if things were really hurting, you keep your mouth shut, you're okay. Like I can tough this thing out. I'll be fine. And let me give you the advice that I wish that if I were to go back to 7th grade Adam, I would have told when he couldn't see and he was blind, and I would tell him, wear the glasses, get the help. And what you need to realize today is that you might feel like you are doing life alone and that you are struggling. And I'm telling you that there is a group of people that are sitting right next to you that want to help. In fact, can I tell you something? There's this, we all feel this perception that, man, I'm afraid to ask for help because I'm going to feel weak or needy. Can I tell you something? What people really think about you when you say that you need help? They actually say, man, that person is so brave for asking that. It's the exact opposite of what our minds tell us. And so some of you are here today. You are alone and you are struggling and you need help. And I'm telling you, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask help from God, but it's also okay to ask help from other people as well. Fourth, when we think through God's eternal nature, I think sometimes we need to trust in God's timing, even when it doesn't make sense. You might be in a season of life where there's a lot of unknowns. You're praying a lot. You're trying to get things answered, but boy, it just doesn't seem like things are answering, and you're just frustrated. You're tired of asking the same things of God, and nothing is coming out. Like you're not getting any answers. And I guess what I want to share with you is that God sees the whole picture, and you see a blip on that picture. And even though it doesn't make sense in the moment why things might be happening, the reality is that God sees the whole where you see the part. And sometimes I just need to say, God, you see more than I do. Even though I can't see it, you can. And so I'm just going to trust you, even when I don't understand. Lastly, and I think this is incredibly important, I think some of us really need to make our lives matter for the Lord. When we talk about the fact that we have 70 or 80 years, some of you are in this room and you think to yourself, I've got all the time in the world. Like when you remember those hourglasses, you remember that, and you tip it over and all the sand's at the top and it starts to trickle down. And when you flip that over, you feel like you have all the time in the world before that ends up emptying out to the bottom. But eventually it does, before you ever realize it. And some of you are here today and you are living life like you have all the time in the world. God, I'll start living for you more later on. I've got things to do. I've got plans. I got all this stuff. And listen, you do not know the seconds, nor the days, nor the hours that you have. Today is the day to stop playing games with God. And it's time to start really getting serious. Some of you might not even be Christians in the room, might not even follow Jesus, but you've been playing this game with God where you just kind of do your own thing. You've been living your life, maybe in the worst of ways. And God's saying, when are you going to stop? When are you going to realize that you are on borrowed time? We are all on borrowed time. It's a gift that we have, the breath and the lungs that we do. And maybe today, for some of us that have just been kind of pushing God to the side, maybe it's time to get real with God.